Yo, 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 what's going on? What's going on? Back with
Sir,
another episode of Yah'm saying podcast. We back and we got Dr. Ham up in the
Dr. Ham.
building, man. We got Dr. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you, brother. Coming on, man. Yeah, man. Just want to appreciate you for coming on. Tonight we're gonna talk about politics, man. Politics is life or death. It's tough conversations we do not want to talk about in that manner, but it is truly about life and death. But welcome, Doc. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh no, man. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate you letting me on the platform, man. I tell people a lot of times, man. We want stronger connections because that creates larger platforms.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you allowing me on your platform for the purpose of that connection, man. It's important that we connect that. There's quotes, man. Sometimes there's quotes that come to your mind that over time you start to see that this might be really good stuff here. And there's two of them, man. One is that war is politics by other means. That is by Karl von Clausewitz. Politics is war by other means. And then Sun Tzu said that all warfare is based on deception. And so I'm going to take those two quotes and I'm going to put them together and overlay them and tell you what I see today. I see that the political parties are the deceptions. I didn't say deception or deception. Deceptions, there are two of them. They're called Democratic Republicans. They're the two of them that distort us from seeing or not seeing why we are so divided as a country. And I think that ideologically, we're at a point where we can't hide it anymore. Right. It used to be you could hide I could just hide, but now we're in an era where silence is becoming treacherous.
Yeah.
Silence is becoming complicity. And silence is leaving people in the middle. And in times of polarization, the last place you want to be is where?
It's in the middle.
In the middle.
It's in the middle. Yeah, because you're gonna get caught up, man. You're gonna get caught up. And it just creates like and that's where I'm reading this book right here called White Rural Rage.
Just heard about that one. Yep.
Yeah, man, these cats go in, the two authors, like from the beginning, they go in, talking about the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And basically how they have put themselves in a position to where they are, their areas are economically, the economics are drained from them.
Yes.
They don't have healthcare. The education is low. There's no jobs. But at the end of the day, they are voting against their own interests in order to oppress another group. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. And then so what we've learned, and I hope we're learning quicker than some, is that voting doesn't change policy in this country. What changes policy in this country is violence. Just be honest. Violence or the threat of violence is what really changes policy here. Because voting and laws are just an indicator that I need to use violence again. This is what January 6th was. January 6th is I cannot beat you at the ballot box, so I will go to the cartridge box. And that's always a threat here because this country has irrational fears. And that is that people feel that I didn't say who, some people, see, I didn't use a label because whenever you bring a label in it, it creates a distortion. And I don't want to distort anybody, but some people feel that they will be losing political power. You can speculate on who this might be. Your discretion. But if we move forward, I tell people that if you don't understand what's happening, it's going to catch you off guard. But if you understand what's happening, it's going to be predictable. It's going to be logical. It's going to be irrational. And that's the thing. To the rational mind, something can look irrational. But if a mind can see irrationality from rationality and step back from it, then you can see that last time people who were accustomed to cheating feel they've been cheated because of
Right.
lies and deception.
Right.
So psychologically, when someone who thinks they've been cheated doesn't get addressed their issue, they feel now morally obligated to cheat because you're not going to cheat me twice.
Right.
So now the forever is magnified. Now the person who's on trial for inciting an insurrection is now the number one candidate for your party, and he has shown he not has only not the temperament, but he has shown that he doesn't have the intellectual, emotional, or any type of turpitude. I apologize to your audience.
It's all good, man.
I apologize to the audience because sometimes I want to find the exact word.
Yeah.
And this is concerning because Sun Tzu once again said that you never back someone into a corner because they will fight you harder. And as he gets back into a corner, he knows he has rabid people who are just waiting to tell them that they've been lied to again. So now I'm going to take already pissed off people who felt they was lied to again. So when they come to the Capitol next time, they're not coming to the Capitol with flags and banners. They're coming with rifles.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because they're already a group talking about civil war.
Yes. This is so, and I think that because people don't realize how close we are to this, while we don't talk about this in our workplace, it's concerning to me.
Yeah, no, it is concerning, especially considering most workplaces. You have basically I call it state TV. You got Fox News that's just blaring on most of our television screens at work. You know what I'm saying? If you have the ability to have that, you know what I'm saying? False narratives that generate the fear to other. You know what I mean? Fear of fear of these folks are coming to take something that they ain't have taken. You ain't have nothing taken from you. You know what I'm saying? And it is it's insane because again, a lot of it is a lack of civics. Understanding civics, understanding power, and understanding who really truly is at fault. But always, even villains have villains, man.
Oh, bro, I will tell you a story, man. So I work for the city now.
Yeah.
The mayor comes out and tells his 10-year plan. He goes in there we're going to do something with the racial wealth gap, and I'm like, all these good talking points, it sounds good, but but what's the real substance? It's just what you tell the people nowadays. I get it. It sounds it polls well, I guess. I don't know. So outside of the meeting, we're just having a discussion about kind of how politicians say things, right? And then the mayor comes up right behind me while we're talking about his policies. and me, because I'm consistent, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna be like, hey sir, I ain't about to code switch because I'm keeping it hot. And so I said to him, because we were talking, and I said to him, he was talking about silos and how we need to get out of silos, and because the Air Force guy, when I say silo, I think of a nuclear missile or something.
Right.
I don't think about the thing on the farm. So he was like, we got to open up them silos. I'm like, sir, we need those. I'm like, those silos is hard to get into. because it was something that I conceptualized differently than he said to me. And so often I think we do that. Somebody will say something to you, but you may hear something different.
Right.
So you might hear Black Republican and think Black conservative.
You
two different things.
Yeah.
See, and you might say Dixiecrat and think Democrat. I see Dixiecrat, I think Republican.
Yeah.
Because I understand I can do the switch prior to the switch.
Right, exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And some people can't do that though. So since we can do that, we have to be mindful that when we're trying to explain something, we have to understand that we have what we can say. The Overton window is what we can say in public without being too far on any side.
Hmm.
It's the safe space of talking.
Say, yeah,
It's
that's
the
where we
safe,
at.
yeah, it's the safe space.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you start getting away from the safe space, you start to alienate people,
Hmm.
and you stop creating environments that are inclusive.
Hmm.
You're going to start seeing factions going. And Alexander Hamilton talked about this in Federalist Number 10, how the country would faction off into groups,
Hmm.
and then these groups would fight each other. And so essentially, the last factions are the Democrats and the Republicans,
Mm.
and the 100 million people who doesn't even vote,
Yeah.
who is a larger faction in either of those factions.
Right. Right.
And so when you start to look at it, one of the challenges that we have is engaging in an electric that is emotionally or ethically exhausted.
Right. 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 There's a lot
There's
of apathy. They have
yeah,
apathy with the voting process. They're like they
yes,
don't see change. There's nothing that really happens because we're just dragging our feet. And there
mhm,
has like just a history of our country just dragging our feet. If this country would have just gave the African Americans or newly freed African Americans
yes,
reparations, there would be progress. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
Actually,
and
actually,
yes,
actually, when it comes to voting rights or any civil rights, if this country just did not if this country did not create laws that
yes,
allowed people to take advantage or take
yes,
voting rights away, right? Voting rights from people, from felons and things of that nature, people would be able to and see change. I don't know why I'm doing that, but people would be able to see the change, and and they just see a system that just takes advantage. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Yeah,
And
they
we
just see. So,
and then you add to what you just said. Now let's
hmm.
add to that a mechanism that was put in place to stop any chances of upward mobility for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Overlay that. Most people are not familiar with this story. I'll share with you that
Hmm.
at around like 1910, 1950, 15, prior to World War One, a lot of enslaved people were just getting to retirement age. People
Hmm.
don't realize that. They were turning
Yeah.
65 and 70. But they had no benefits. They had no social security. Most
Hmm.
of them were still on the plantation where they were at. And
Hmm.
because they didn't have anything, an organization was started just for these specific black folks, the older ones, the ones who were literally born enslaved.
Right.
Literally born enslaved. So you can't make an argument that, oh, that was 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
No, they were actually born in physical bondage, had reached retirement age, and there was no safety net for them.
Hmm.
So what did black folks do? Because what do we always do when we have a need? What do we do? What do black folks do when we have a need?
Well, we got pray, man.
We pray, but then what do
Yeah.
we do after we do? We pass the collection plate.
Oh, the cloud. Okay, I got you. Hmm.
And so we went out and started collecting money for these people while ultimately petitioning the government.
Hmm.
But the government didn't like that we were doing this to help our people out. They didn't like that we were using the postal system to send letters to advocate for our emancipation and rights to these people.
Hmm.
And that's how we were, and the movement got so big that the movement had got so big, they had almost millions of people who had signed up to it, like their own kind of retirement fund
Oh
that
wow.
they were making up for
Hmm.
these specific people
Hmm.
because they understood that they had nothing and the government would give them nothing. So the government came in, shut the organization down using mail fraud laws to say that pretty much you guys are using the US postal system for illegal purposes, which is to help yourself.
Mm.
They said that you're using the postal system to help yourself, and that's illegal. So they
Wow.
shut it down, threw all the way, and we don't talk about that in our history because they make it seem like we wasn't trying to get no help nowhere. It's like, no, we
Right.
were trying to get help, bro. Slow
Hmm.
down.
Hmm.
I
Exactly.
know I know our history. We were
Right.
trying to solve these problems. And I can
Exactly.
show
Exactly.
you how laws were created for the specific purpose of stopping our upward mobility, overlaid with what you were just talking about.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. And that's why a lot of times I talk about you know uh, 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 generational trauma. Not saying generational curses.
Yeah,
More no more say generational trauma.
yeah,
It wasn't that our ancestors weren't trying. They were buying homes, they were getting
Yeah,
life insurance, they were putting money in the bank. They just got taken advantage of because of the laws that were created. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And
yeah,
again, but
and
yeah, go ahead, Doc.
they did not have a social safety net.
Hmm,
Most
hmm,
of them died on the plantation where they were born at, and they didn't go anywhere. And when the old mistresses started to die, new tenants would come in and throw them off of the land. They would literally say,
hmm.
"Hey, look, I've been here my whole life. I have nowhere to go. Hey, I don't care where you go, but you got to be off this land.
Yeah, get up out of here.
They'll get out of here."
Yeah.
And so a lot of our people moved to Indian reservations.
Hmm, hmm,
They moved out west. They moved to areas where they would be less, violence. If you look
hmm.
at the show of Bass Reeves, the
Yeah.
first black lawman in the West,
Hmm.
Bass Reeves, he was the first like U.S. Marshal, black U.S. Marshal, pro Civil War in America.
Yeah.
And essentially, his story was he was lived with the Indians, and the only reason they made him a federal marshal or deputy marshal is because he could speak to the Indian tribes.
Hmm.
So his utility was he knew the language of the Indians, I think the Shawnee, or he knew their language, and he ultimately knew that they owned so much territory, they needed somebody who could go on Indian land and arrest fugitives who would go in there from U.S. justice.
Mm.
So that's where our purpose. And he was like credited with like the most ever like fugitives, bad guys killed. Like it was like this is a show on I think it's Netflix or Paramount called Bass Reeves.
Oh
Really
yeah,
good
yeah,
story.
it's called Back Street. Yeah, I haven't watched that yet. Yep,
Oh, yeah, it's
yep.
really
It's
good though. But I say
yeah,
that because there are stories, because there's a necessity that needs to be told. Because if you don't tell the necessity, it'll make it seem like we're just now this generation of black folks in America are asking for reparations. When the
right.
people who were actually born in slavery
Hmm.
lived to 60, 70, 80 years old, and some of them lived to the 1930s. And I tell people all the time,
Hmm.
people don't realize this. The last soldier who died, who fought in the Civil War, died in 1958.
Yeah, yeah,
My mama was born. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to verify a relative that was 100 years old in 1930. Uh,
Wow.
I'm trying to verify,
Yeah.
yeah, to make sure that this is my grandmother. You know what I'm saying? Who was 100 years old.
In
So that
1930.
would have yeah, that would have put her. She's on the census. I see her on the
I
census in
mean,
19.
she could have known Frederick Douglass.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
She
yeah,
probably.
it's crazy.
What state was it in?
South Carolina. Hmm.
Oh
So
man, so
yeah,
just so you know, man, I've been to South Carolina. I've been to the port. I know about how was it 40, was it 60% of all the enslaved Africans came through
came
Charleston.
to Charleston. Yep. Yeah,
Charleston.
yeah.
I went to the museum. I went to the culture. I got the food. I saw the forts and all that. But I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you one thing, man. If they don't start taking the word plantation off of stuff, I
Hmm.
I don't want to eat plantation pancakes. I'm a northerner, and just I don't know if they know this, but when we go down to Myrtle Beach and we around places, if you're a northerner, I ain't never been down there. I don't
Yeah,
want plantation pancakes. They
yeah,
may be
yeah,
the best pancakes in the world, but I don't want none.
yeah. Man, I had a conversation with an individual, man, and this individual was talking about buying a plantation house. Their logic was, I'm gonna buy this plantation house from the white man because I'm taking it back. I was like, but you're giving them money.
It ain't free. I
That
mean,
ain't free. Yeah, you go pay.
no,
You
but
can't
this is
pay
but
four
this
hundred
is
thousand for
like
that plantation.
I
Don't make
don't
no sense.
and I don't like the commercialization. Like they got some
Mhm.
places where you can like stay in a slave cabin, like a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, no,
And
they
I'm
do.
like,
Man.
and I'm
They'll
like,
have
could you imagine having a bed and breakfast at Auschwitz?
yeah, for real. They
I
do
mean, come
weddings,
on.
events. They do all types of stuff on plantation, man.
And I
It's
and I and I tell you this, man. All plantations were not created equal. Just so we're clear.
yeah.
Some plantation, because you got to remember, man. I know we make these comparisons, but if you read about the Devil's Punch Bowl, it was the concentration camp before the concentration camp
Mm-hmm.
in Louisiana. They don't even grow things there today. It was literally they put 20,000 black folks in a swamp and left them to die.
Wow.
They left them to die. No food, nothing. It's called the Devil's Punch Bowl. And the reason I say this is because we sometimes don't have a historical accuracy on how traumatic what happened to our people here was. Because first off, we don't teach it. And then those
Mm-hmm.
who do teach it don't even know it. And
Mm.
my concern is who teaches the teacher.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because the teacher don't know.
And you know, speaking of plantation, because now we're in an election time, right? Election season, and you know, there's you know people, you know, folks on like both sides and stuff, but you know, the black conservatives and black Republicans, they like telling black folk that we on a plantation. I always say you don't understand
No, but listen,
what it
you
means to
listen to
be
me.
on a plantation. Don't
Listen,
understand it, man.
man.
You just using rhetoric.
You start with
Mm,
the etymology of the word first, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
you work your way up. See,
You work your way up. Yeah, exactly.
a plantation does not have a negative connotation to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a negative word. It's where we get the plant from. A plantation is a system and an order of operation of doing things. It's the
Mm-hmm.
plantation way or plantation method. It just we put people into the plantation process, and
Yeah.
that was the problem.
Yeah.
Not because if you go to a Ford plant, it's a plantation. They run it
Mhm.
like a plantation. You have work times, break time, suit time, you know, show up time, you know, all that. When it got to the point of plantation, in the sense that it became something different, it
Mhm.
became mental.
Mhm.
Meaning,
Right.
I could take your physical body from this piece of place. Like I could take your body out of the factory, but if you only think about the factory at your house, you ain't left the plantation.
Right. Right.
You know, it's like when I take my uniform off, I ain't the master sergeant
Mhm.
no more.
Right.
But some people don't want to take it off.
Don't know how to take it off. Yeah. 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 That's
And
what
when I
you.
leave the physical plantation, the indoctrination of the plantation is still in me,
Mhm.
because I still know not to question any authority.
Right. You don't
Because I still know my
the
place.
system. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I
Mhm.
still
You
know
don't
how
go.
to fall in line.
Right.
Do
Exactly.
what I'm told. I
Mhm.
still do that even though I'm not on the physical plantation.
Mhm.
I
You
still
look at an individual who is the master. You know what I'm saying? Not that would be. You know. Oh no. This person is in
because
charge.
I
You don't question them.
because I stop at the red light at 2 in the
Mhm.
morning, not because I'm afraid that the police are gonna pull me over. I stop
Mhm.
because I've been conditioned to see a red light and
Mhm.
stop at it.
Yeah.
I've been conditioned, and some people can overcome that conditioning if there's exigency, if there's urgency, and I can run that light. But I have
Mhm.
to determine when I run that light or not.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I see people today, I'm very careful about the sensitivity of words and labeling, because I
Right.
understand once you put a psychological label on somebody, there is no way for them to fight you logically, because
Mhm.
you're essentially saying that the problem is deeper than you recognize, sir. Like
Mhm.
I'm telling you, like the problem is deeper than you want to. Because what's the topic of this show again called?
This
The
is
topic.
politics. Politics is life or death.
Now let's talk about the death part. Is that cool?
Mhm.
Can we talk about the
Yeah.
death
We can
part?
get into it. Yeah, we
All
can
right.
talk about that part, man.
Because if we don't talk about the death part, that we don't understand is that politics is like this. The death part is whenever you write your name down on a piece of paper and tell people what you're willing to die for, you have
Mhm.
essentially declared to the world what it's going to cost to take this from me.
Mhm.
So if you read the Declaration of Independence, the last line says, "We pledge our fortunes, our sacred honor, blah blah." You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
are, we in this together.
Mhm.
Sink or swim, no matter what comes, because we're going. I think Benjamin Franklin said, "Look, we shall all stand separate. We shall all stand together, or we will hang separately."
Mhm.
And so, one of the things that I'm seeing happening is we have got to this idea where, I want to say this correctly, where we
Mhm.
can stand separately when it's necessary. When it's advantageous to us, we will stand together.
Right.
And when it's advantageous for us to not, we won't.
Mhm.
And that to me is not how you create a positive movement.
Movement. Yeah. Because
You just become stagnated and
mhm.
you become stale,
Mhm.
because like I can read you how the FBI infiltrates organizations and what they do. They send in people who just add confusion, who don't want to party anything, bring everything to a committee. Nobody has any power, can't make any decisions, and nobody can ever focus. No concern mission, and they know that everybody got a different vision. But let's say me and you today, and we say, listen, let's create a rule between me and you right now, okay? And that rule will be, you say your idea and I say my idea. And if you think your idea is better than my idea, we'll do yours. And if mine is better, we'll do yours. Right. And then you say, okay, what are the stipulations of that? Now, I don't like the word. And then you said to me, I don't like the word better, because better is hard to measure. You know, you was a kid and you tried to touch the rim one summer and you just tried to hit the net. You couldn't grab the rim. And then that first time you actually tipped the rim a little bit, or you just the first time. Because you could see the progression. And you're jumping. And I think that's how education becomes. As you begin to jump higher and touch things, you start to say, we need rules we need processes to expedite so that we don't get bogged down in foolishness. So we can cut through the foolishness. Like, what is your argument? Make it plain, make an argument. I'll make a defense and we'll go from there. And then we will come and we'll reason together. We might have to collaborate, take the best of your idea, not. In the event when we are at an impasse where we cannot collaborate because we are ideologically opposed, diametrically ideologically opposed, meaning that I no longer see my safety in your decisions. I see what you decide as a danger to me. Like you heard the explain, I can't vote for somebody who's gonna hurt somebody I love. Yeah. And I think that's emotional reasoning, because sometimes you don't conceptualize it as hurting anybody. You conceptualize it as making an individual choice, because you don't look beyond your own self-interest. You just see, hey, you know what? As a black dude, you know, I can get into some really cool parties as a black conservative, because I know that I'm going to be unique and I'm going to stand out here because I'm a free thinker. okay, free thinker.
Kill me.
I mean, no, I get that. It is necessary to talk about this, because I don't care why you with it. I don't care if you want to be there. Do you, boo boo? My concern is that when you become a token, you will have to be redeemed. See, as a token, I know they can put me in that slot machine anytime they want to and use me like Herman Cain. They can use me like a black person. They can use me like Clarence Thomas, or they can use me like
Tim Scott,
and Condoleezza Rice, and Colin Powell. They can take my life. They can take my lifetime of credibility and make me go be the fall guy for their dumb plan. Yeah. And that's the problem with being a token, is the higher you become, the more likely when they redeem you will be embarrassing. Because they don't do that to each other. No, but they will. And then you have the pressure to think, well, you know, I got to be the best token in this room, because how they are going to perceive all black people is how I will project my personality onto them. And if that's not idolatry, I don't know what is. Yeah. That's what it is. You're saying that I want to represent a demographic to these people, because they don't want to have a diversity of thought. God forbid those free thinkers have other people who don't think like them in their free thinking group. That was a joke. Yeah. That was, I was trying to.
Hey, that's why I always laugh at that phrase, man. Like, you're a free thinker and you hanging around other people, y'all think the same thing.
Anyway. I said, this dude said great minds. He said great minds think alike. He said, no, they don't. The great minds think differently.
Think differently. That's
differently. And then they come together when they need to intersect for better processes. And that's where the death part comes, is that there's stages of grief, you know, and I think that we go through those oppositely sometimes with politics. We inverse, like, we create slogans that are meaningless to emotion, like, I'm not going to let who you vote for determine if I like you or not. And it's like, because all warfare is based upon deception, and your statement is deception. That's a lie. You're being deceptive. And if you don't think you are, then you are by complicity, because you don't even know that you're being deceptive. And those are the worst ones. Yeah. Those are the worst ones.
Yeah, they are the worst ones, man.
Because at least have the integrity to say that does. It's like it don't matter what color Jesus is. Well, if he come back, it do.
It does, like it does, and that's what I'm saying. Like in
well, no,
politics,
if you expect him to come back, it's going to matter because you don't want to misidentified the dude.
Yeah, man. You have some like,
and that's for those who ascribe to that idea. I'm just saying that if we're using logic, then don't tell me because the political party you select in times of political chaos becomes the side that you want to go to war with. Now, the only problem that I will tell a lot of the people who are on the other side is that in the frenzy of the group, you don't want to be the lone black person there. Just saying, because you will get caught up as they cannot identify you, black man, as on their side in the frenzy. They won't know that you are with them in their frenzy. And when they got their rope and they're hanging and lynching things, you might just be easy target because they act like sharks in a frenzy. Did you see January 6th?
Oh yeah.
They act like a frenzy. They were literally in a altered state of reality. And I thought that when it came to it, you noticed that I didn't see people talking about the group-oriented violence. See, political violence is one thing. Yeah, a crazy dude going to shoot up a school for political violence or shooting, that's individual-oriented violence. That's political. But when you have group-oriented political violence, that's called terrorism. And we don't want to call, because we use sophistry when it comes to white supremacy in America. We do. We use kid gloves and baby language. We say, "Oh, that was just a little riot. They got a little lot of hand."
I mean, it was nice. It was nice. He's a nice kid. He played it. He was on a lacrosse team. It's 4-H club. Play chess.
And so when they use this sophistry, my concern becomes, we can see your hypocrisy. It's like, I can see you, right? I can see your hypocrisy, and you're doing it in front of me.
But they expect you not to notice it, Doc. That's the thing. They expect you not to know.
And that's okay. But be better at hiding it.
Yeah.
Don't show me and then act like I'm not supposed to just be quiet about it. But see, I think like this, and Zora Neale Hurston says it the best. She says that if you're silent, he said they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. And see, my concern is that most people, you are in the home of where the Civil War started from. So how far are you from Fort Sumter?
About 2 hours.
Okay, so if you understand the events that led up to the Civil War, I like to use parallels historically so people can get a sense of time frame. Because in 1857, 1858, there was a Supreme Court case. It was called Dred Scott v. Sanford. And that case made, because the court had ruled the way they ruled, there was no legal remedy to fix the problem of slavery anymore. There was no legal, because the country was fractured, so you couldn't get a political solution anymore. So that decision meant that war was inevitable, but we didn't know when.
Right.
And right now, the Supreme Court has a case that will be just as significant as that case. Because if I would speculate that before Trump or 45 put any of those people in the Supreme Court, he probably discussed this scenario with them. And they probably wrote his legal argument for him because he understood that this could be a possibility, that the people I put on this court would need to support my unitary immunity theory as the president.
Right.
And if we want to be honest, you can make an argument that as a president is executing their duties and authorities, to say in that moment that they're not being lawful would be problematic from any organization, any entity. It could be problematic. But is it subject to review when they leave office? Then I would say, based upon what you said, yes, because you said this. And I think that's why Mitch McConnell had to step down, because he stepped down. Because he said his reason for not voting to impeach was because he could be tried later, and this is a moot point.
Yeah.
So when his number 2 guy in the Senate endorses Trump and he leaves the office, now he don't have to answer that question no more.
Yeah.
Because we playing checkers, man. They're playing 4-dimensional chess.
Man, chess, man. And that's what they've been doing. You know what I'm saying?
When they took Merrick Garland, Obama's pick from the Supreme Court,
right,
and literally stonewalled for a year, and then put Barrett on there, and then they overturned Roe. They are understanding that their window is closing. To enact radical change in this country, it is closing, and they understand they have to get everything they can get legally before they can get it violently. And now let's talk about the violence, because the percentage of the party that is violent is very low as a percentage wise. So if you want to look at historical figures, only about 3% of the population fought in the Revolutionary War.
Right.
That's very low.
That is
3%. So that organization, 3%, that's where they get their name from. It only takes about 3% of heavily armed, determined to destroy the government people. Because the reason you'll have so much political violence here is because psychologically our country has never trained its law enforcement nor its military to be extrajudicially violent to people who look like them trying to take over their government.
Right.
Like they're not ready to.
Especially when you have these individuals within the government too. There'll be people in the military who'll be like, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna join them. You know what I'm saying?
And we know that there was active duty people there on January 6th.
Oh yeah.
And we know we've all had some military people who we know been like, we know whose side you on, bro.
Hey, I do. There's active duty military bugs who was in the KKK and everything.
Yeah, like you ain't on the Constitution side.
Yeah,
but this is an important point to bring out, because just so we're clear, fascism can come from the left or the right.
Right, exactly.
From the political spectrum, it can come either side. But to say that it is closer on the right is an understatement. Because when you take fascism and mix it with Christian nationalism, then what you're going to have is a very scary scenario when you take people who are used to having power. Because if you go and look at the statistics on civil wars, they're not caused by the people who don't have the power. Civil wars are caused by the people with power and resources who fear losing it. And the reason that the poor people don't start the civil wars is because they don't have the resources to do it.
Not the resources, yeah, exactly.
They get massacred.
Yeah.
They get massacred. So it's the people who've been hoarding the guns and who actually have what's essential of immunity. So like when he said, hey, I'm going to walk down there to the Capitol with you. See, you have to understand what that meant psychologically. He's saying I'm deputizing you, because if I, the president, go with you, you're good.
Right.
See, I'm putting my clothes. Now he knew that the Secret Service wouldn't allow that, but he can now gaslight. Now, you know, the case that I think about now that we're going to see, two Supreme Court cases that I would recommend people look at, and so they can see the hypocrisy that is very glaring. It's Dennis versus United States and Brandenburg v. Ohio. These cases deal with the same subject of how far I can go with my speech. Like, what can I say before my speech becomes unlawful or legal or seditious? And if you look at the rationale in Dennis, and then look at the rationale in Brandenburg, and you ask yourself, what's the difference? And when you find that answer, you're going to see why there's going to be violence. Because the answer in that question is why you're going to see political violence. Because by the time your words incite people to violence, they've already been radicalized by their doctrine and ideology. Now, Brandenburg was decided in 1969. How many years is that? Like 57 something years ago, right?
Yeah. So
we haven't had any update to the law of freedom of speech since the 60s, late 60s. But think about how much we've learned cognitively, psychologically since then. And how much space that we can speak into now, up into radicalization, so that the ringleader doesn't even have to even say much anymore. Just say they stole from you.
They took from me. And that's what Trump is doing right now, right? Trump is saying they take from you. They are coming in to change our
and they think I can, I don't,
not really speaking in big words or these big speeches, and he's getting these folks all riled up, man. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy, man. But that's the times that we live in, and these folks are. I mean, like you're saying, the next January 6th, folks are gonna be bringing guns. They're gonna be bringing guns. I mean, especially when you're looking at states now that are passing constitutional carry, right?
Yeah, and just so I want to tell everybody a scenario. It's kind of a weird scenario that we've from a civics perspective, we've never had this scenario happen in U.S. history.
Right.
Well, actually, we've had it in 1877. They did a compromise over it. But if the way the Constitution is written, to win the presidency, you need 270 electoral votes. In the event that no party or no candidate gets that many votes, you know what the next step is in the process?
The next
so if no
Supreme Court decides, don't it? The Supreme Court decides.
Nope.
Supreme Court decides. What's the next step?
It goes to the House of Representatives.
Oh, okay, got you. Oh, and then the House of Reps.
Yes, and the House votes by delegation.
Yeah.
And this is where, if they would have had power last time, all they would have to do is say, hey, we are not going to count the votes from these states. We're not going to count them. Now, what would happen if, let's say, of state votes were not counted? Now you're going to run into this issue where, if we take the legal argument to its face value, Joe Biden is still president until that day, right? So while this is all going on, he now can control his legal system to stop these fraud. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what, like a lot of that stuff they was doing last time was just bullshit. They knew that the stuff they was telling people was lying. That's why they got that.
Mike can do this, and Mike Pence can,
that's why they got the lawsuit for defamation. Because they knew that they knew they were telling lies. That's why their lawyers are losing their licenses. That's why they're being disbarred, because they knew they were telling lies for the purpose of continuing the grift. Now, some people think that this individual should be president. That is concerning enough as it is, apart from anything else. And I don't want to make this an argument about intelligence or ignorance, because some people believe that it is in their self-interest to have this man as their president, because they're small, vindictive people who like to see reality TV shows and want to see an angry dude have power. I get it. It's and one of the things I've learned is that if you think there's never been a left in this country, if he wins, there will become one overnight.
Yeah, there will be.
They'll become a radical left.
I mean, it'll be like black people in the 1920s and 30s, when black people were communists. They started joining the CPUSA. They did so because the southern states were so oppressive. You know what I mean? And like, we got no other choice. We got no other choice but to be leftist.
What we've done, I think, is there's two different ideas I think working on is strategy. So, for example, when you are making a strategic decision, you're saying that I think it's in my best interest to go with this side. Like I think, like let's say I think this is going to be the winning side, and I want to put my money on the winning side from a strategic perspective. My argument, though, is that what do you win? Like, if this is your winning side, what are you getting? I mean, what are you winning? Now, if it's this idea of culture war stuff, like, oh yeah, we don't want you to teach about our kids, our history, and okay, got it. That's your person. But what I'm seeing is that we're creating an environment where, since we don't have the forum to talk about these things, to your point earlier, we talk about the connection. And see, what I'm learning is that there are people who don't know how to have these conversations because there is the fear of saying the wrong thing. you know,
Yeah.
of getting someone getting in their feelings when you're just trying to have an honest conversation.
You're trying to have an honest conversation, and this person is just in their feeling, and it's
In their
just like,
feelings, you know, like, bro, it's like
oh, man.
yeah, it's like, look, once you get your emotions out of this, let's get back to this.
Right.
I'm not having an emotional conversation. I'm trying to have a logical conversation because
Yeah.
I can see the
Like,
writing on the wall.
yeah, like I get it, bro. You like them insurrection sixes, man. You want to buy them Trump sneakers.
And in fairness, I tell people that mostly it's like I get that some of us know that we're not here necessarily trying to push some agenda.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
like I'm not a Biden supporter. You know,
Right.
people, like, I'm not a Biden supporter, bro. Like I'm not a
Yeah,
Trump supporter. Like I'm a truth supporter. I support
yeah.
the truth, and I
I,
feel like,
I don't even like that I have to like explain that to people, man. Like,
I know, and I think that's the weird because I feel like people can't hold two ideas in their head simultaneously.
right.
Yes, I can literally not like them both, and then say to you, see, when you say to me lesser of two evils, you create a binary construct in me. I'm a trinary thinker. So I take binaries and I form a structure that can be used to hold all three ideas. And see, in either scenario, no matter who wins, we still need strategy.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if we can't see strategy because we don't like the candidate, we already missing the boat.
Yeah, yeah.
We need strategy no matter who wins. Because
Right.
I will tell you this, if you start to see people who literally will not be able to hold it together because it's like we must be in Wonderland right now. Like this can't be real. Like the number one contender for your political party who could potentially get 70 plus million votes in this country is this lunatic.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's lightly. And I say
that's
that
light, man.
without
That's oh man.
and this is like I've read, and this thing is this, like I don't make analysis quickly. I read the book that his clinical psychologist niece wrote. I listened to the entire Georgia transcripts of that call he made to Georgia down there.
Yeah,
Listen to the whole call, bro. It sounded like a mafia boss trying to
yeah,
strong arm a union worker. It was
yeah,
ridiculous with the
that's
way of the federal government. I
mhm.
listened to it. I listened to the impeachment. I listened to the arguments, and I will tell you this. Now, the first one, I would say, I probably wouldn't did the first one. The first one, I probably wouldn't have did it because I do think that we're going to create a system where disloyalty to the government will be an issue because people will feel the need to follow their moral convictions. So you've seen the Air Force individual who set themselves on fire, right?
Yeah.
So tell me what temperature we are at now when people from your military are burning themselves alive to protest an action from a organization that you were part of. This is I study this. Like, this is a canary in the mine shaft. This is, you know what the canary in the mine shaft is, right?
You can explain it. Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
yeah, I do. Yeah, you can.
when the miners were going to the mine shaft because of the toxic gases in there, they would send canaries in there first. If the canaries start chirping or dying, then they knew that there was gas they needed to get out. And see, when you see the canary starting to die, the people who have the moral conviction who are sacrificing, when they're the ones who are saying something is wrong, it's an indicator. It's a bell has been rung, but we're not listening to it because in these heightened political times, we're getting tunnel hearing.
Yeah.
Tunnel hearing.
Yeah.
Like tunnel vision, and we're only hearing people who agree or disagree with us. Do you know?
Right.
You know
We're
how
not
much time?
yeah, we're not. Go ahead.
But do you know how much time I spend painfully listening to conservative commentators?
Hey, look, man, I do the same thing, man.
But only reason because I need to know what their new arguments are.
I need to know what they thinking over there. I need
Because
to know
nobody goes to war and don't concern themselves with their adversary saying. And I say adversary not in a combative way. I say adversary in the ideas that you are supporting will not be in my best interest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean. And I think when it comes to us, we've never really learned how to do that here in a constructive way. Say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you're not my friend. Tay, because of the things you do, we ain't friends no more. I
Yeah.
hope the best for you, but now if I see you on the sidewalk, walk the other way. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want,
Yeah. Yeah.
because if we don't establish these boundaries, then what we're going to end up doing is creating environments where two emotionally charged people are going to
Mm-hmm.
get together, and those emotionally charged people will create a chain reaction that this country, I think, is not it's not ready for it at this particular moment.
Yeah, and it's yeah, and I agree because it's hard for people to focus on the issues. You know what I'm saying? I always
Yeah.
hear this argument. People are like, "Well, I wish the Biden administration talk about their wins and talk about their wins and talk about." Well, talk about it for what? You have we have an American society that has a short attention span. Everybody it's a microwave society. You want to talk about an issue. People forgot what happened last year. You know what I mean? People forgot what happened in January. You know what I
Bro.
mean? They're not even talking about, I mean, they barely, I mean, people, and it's crazy because these same folks who are like, talk about this, talk about that, they want information pushed to them, right? Because they only use their Google machine to order food and porn, right? That's the only thing they use it for, right? That's just
and
facts.
yeah, and you see it down where I create processes to
Mhm.
avoid biases.
Mhm.
Like I build in processes to validate what I'm reading and making sure that I'm getting multiple sources from different perspectives. So
Right.
when I read about plantation life, I'm reading the journals of the plantation owners.
Owners, exactly.
I'm reading the court transcripts of the day.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
I'm reading firsthand accounts of stuff. I'm
Mhm.
not reading Thomas Sowell's fake, non-scholarly
Uh,
drivel. I
was
mean,
it redneck
not
black
this,
something?
bro.
I
I
got
can't
I can even
believe
that bad.
this non-scientific, just
It's
ignorant.
just terrible. It's just ignorance. It's just yeah.
And
It's
I
just
just
ignorance.
and I tell people, I say if this is, and there was a time, and don't get me wrong, there was a time when conservative thinkers were the smartest people in this country.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
When Milton Friedman was having a discussion, he shut everybody down.
Right.
You could not argue Milton Friedman on capitalism.
Mhm, mhm.
You could not. I mean, Chomsky could. Noam Chomsky could handle William Buckley, but
Yeah.
very few could handle William Buckley
Right, right,
because
right.
he was a rapid
Except for
fire.
those strong progressive like
Yes,
I like those when he talked with Huey P. Newton or Jesse Jackson.
yes,
Jackson,
because
right.
he can
He can handle
craft
it.
the question real time, and he can hit
Mhm.
you with it fast.
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah,
He
yeah.
can, he can see where you're going logically, and then meet you ahead, and
Mhm.
then have you trying to figure out where you're trying to go without moving the goalpost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if you and see and now, but the conservative thinkers now are like, and I hate to say their
Eh,
names, I hate to say
yeah.
their names, but I feel like you have to. The reason I don't say their name is because a new one will pop up next week.
Mhm. Yeah,
If I say
exactly.
somebody's name, it'll just give them more publicity. And I don't
Mhm.
like that because they're all the same. They're
Mhm.
just plug and play, like they are. They can diagnose every problem with black folks. They
Mhm.
know every problem with black folk, and it ain't got nothing to do with nothing but black folk. Convenient. That's great scholarship there, pal. Thanks for that analysis.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And
Yeah.
and then the
Mhm.
real thinkers are still conceptualizing the problem at the PhD and above level. And I don't
Mhm.
say that as a I hate to say that as an authoritative thing because I'm not an authority on anything. What I
Mhm.
am is a person who wants to know more.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I've gotten to the highest level of learning more that the system can give you. And I went beyond that
Mhm.
because I have a passion to know. And it's
Right.
not because of school. It's because I believe that knowing is the etymology of the word science. Science
Mhm.
means to know.
Mhm.
And if you want to know, you're a scientist by default.
By default. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you want to know, and that's why The Gnostic people, the Gnostic people were the knowledge people, and they were the most persecuted people around the first century because these were people who wanted knowledge. They didn't want dogma. They didn't want to be indoctrinated. They wanted knowledge, and they wanted to be free to pursue it. And when you want to pursue knowledge, there are going to be barriers to stop you. And some of those barriers are degrees. Some of those is, you need to have this and you need to have that. And I said, listen, the smartest people I've ever talked to in my life graduated from the school of I've lived a long time. And in that time of living, I've learned some things that you can't get in any book.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we see ourselves today. We connect with people because we're trying to conceptualize the depth of the problem. And the depth of the problem, if we want to get to analytical part, I would tell you this. I would say this is not my argument. This is the argument that Malcolm made. This is the argument that King made. We need leaders who are more concerned with justice than money. We need people who ain't concerned about ego and who gets the credit for it. Because I tell you all the time, I said, listen, if Karen Hunter wanted me to come on her show, I might say no. And let me tell you why I'd say no. And why I might say no. Because I learned something a long time ago. Is that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And see, what I'm learning now is that everybody's platform ain't for me.
That's true.
Everybody's platform ain't for me. And I'm learning that if I believe I have something that's important, that's valuable and treasure, then I will be careful who I share it with. So I stay up and I listen to you and your brother on y'all show, and I see y'all brothers in South Carolina wanting to know, and I love that. Because I understand that it's in that learning that you are going to do some work for me that I don't have to do, and vice versa.
Right. That's how we network. We connect. And what's going on up there with y'all? What's going on? Hey, this is what's going on down here with us. We can connect. You got resources. I got resources. And
we can check the temperature, and we can do it as in a way that we've never been able to do it before, and that's in real time.
Yeah.
See, I ain't got to wait until 6 months for next runner can come down. Because so fun fact is that most of the enslaved people were the mail runners in that time. So they would take the letters to the plantation, but while they were at the mail station, they would overhear the people talking. They would get all the gossip. That's where the grapevine started from. I heard it through the grapevine. So we were just ear hustling, and they didn't feel the need to conceal what they were saying because they didn't think we knew what they were talking about anyway. They were very openly about what they were going to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because they didn't know I can hear you. Because I can not, because he who has an ear, not who has an ear. Some people will get that later. But but the reason that's important is because when we establish these networks, we would know when somebody's about to get sold from a plantation. We would know when it was time to run. We would know that master's grandmother just got sick and died, and 4 of her enslaved people would be coming to our plantation because in her inheritance, she left 4 of her enslaved people to you. See, we knew that ahead of time. And then because we had this knowledge, we didn't have a repository for it. We didn't have institutions to collect this data. We didn't have a centralized hub. We didn't have a central intelligence agency.
Right.
There was no Black central intelligence agency. Now we did. It was called the church for a while. But the only problem is that agency didn't run off intelligence, ran off faith, which is the opposite of knowledge. And they're diametrical.
Yeah.
Because if I got faith, then I'm knowing. And I think that's where I see us today. As we are establishing connections, what I'm seeing happen is that we have to start understanding our value because our time is more valuable than the forum. And I think that when we start to talk about how we share our time with people, it becomes a reflection of how important their work is. Not how important what we're doing, how important their work is. Because like I said, I can't go to South Carolina, but if you tell me, hey, this is the argument they're making down South right now. This is the primary argument that's going on for the Black conservatives. This is what they're saying. And now you can tell it to me, and I can be like, all right, okay, I haven't heard that argument up here yet, but now I can already start to go do my research.
Do the research.
and find the
And
origin of what it
yeah.
because they ain't got
Hey,
no new
let's
ideas.
see if they talking about this up here.
Hey,
Yeah.
they ain't got no new ideas.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
all I
true,
gotta
man.
do is I'm like, bro, you regurgitating the
No,
same
no new
argument that
idea.
John C. Calhoun used in 1840.
Yeah,
Like, bruh, like get
yeah.
some better ideas. And that's where I tell them is when they can't beat you with their ideas,
Mhm,
that's where I think we're getting to a point is that they can't beat you with their ideas anymore.
mhm,
And that creates a problem because they have all the resources. And when
mhm.
all the people with all the resources can't beat you with their ideas, they'll just murder you. I mean, to be
Yeah,
bluntly, they'll just murder you.
yeah,
And that's history in a nutshell.
yeah, man. Yeah, and
I
on
didn't mean
that.
to, I didn't mean to leave on a bleak note, but that's what they'll
Oh
do.
no, hey, that's good. I mean that's just history and politics in this country. And when we're looking at politics in this country, there are politicians who is using the law currently. You look at Jackson, Mississippi, Louisiana. I mean, Louisiana is like ground zero for laws that are being passed. I mean, when we talk about it, what I mean, I make this quick comment and we wrap up here. Is that I mean, you had states who said no to funding so that kids can eat during the summer.
Yeah.
like like these are people in positions of power who are making these decisions. You know what I'm saying? And so so yeah, man, politics is life or death, man. And when a side feel like they are losing
Yeah.
their life, even though they are not losing the resources or power, um they will use violence, man.
They
That's what it
will.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah.
Read about Wilmington, North Carolina in
Carolina.
1896.
Yeah,
18,
buddy.
read about it. And I'll tell you this, and that's why I think that I would only add to your statement that they are not in power.
Mhm.
They're in position.
Yeah.
But because power, and this is my definition from Dr. Wade Nobles, he said power is the ability to define reality and have other people respond to your definition as if it were their own. And what we've never learned how to do is create reality in what we of our own. That's
Mhm.
why, like the man, okay, the dude said, because okay, we never called ourselves black people, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
our term. The term
No.
black came from the Greeks who went to the land of Kemet, and it meant black in their land, black land, not black people, it meant land of the soil. So,
Mhm.
so we didn't call ourselves black.
Yep.
Black was a designation given to us by Eurocentric colonizers in its current form. And that is important to tell people. So if I say I am melanated, if I say I am melanated, it means I am taking off of the shackle of the color that you put on me. And I want to say melanated or whatever I want to say. If I want to say
Mhm.
black, I can say that.
Yeah,
Because for you to tell me, what am I today? I said, listen, I define my reality, not you. And
yeah.
people get mad and frustrated when they can no longer define your reality for you.
Mhm.
And I think that's unfortunate, especially when the negative connotation.
Yeah.
Bill from the
Bill.
BK. Hey, that's the Bronx. Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah. I gotta get Bill on here. I gotta get Bill back on here
hey,
too.
hey,
Yeah.
from the BX.
Hey, yeah.
But I
Bruh.
appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, man. And Doc, man, I appreciate you, man, as always, man, coming on, spitting that spitting that fire, man.
Hey, here all
And
day.
and I always learn, man. I just sit back and just listen and learn, man.
Hey, man, and I tell you this, man.
Mhm.
If somebody want a link to something or we talked about, just put it on the thing, and I'll send some information on any of the subject, like that postal thing, the reparations thing. When we're
Mhm.
trying to go back and get it, because
Yeah.
sometimes you need to have those defenses. So when people make these arguments to you, you can come with receipts.
Mhm. Or you just send it to me in an email. I'll just post it. Yeah, I just
Okay.
post it, and I'll post it in
Okay.
the too as well, man. Appreciate you, Doc, man. As always, man. Appreciate the folks that tuned in, man, and that's going to tune in to, podcast, man. 'Cause, we out.
Peace.